day, everyone. It's not 5:32, which is the starting time that we were doing every week. It's actually a few minutes late, but that's okay. Welcome to the Hybrid Live Show. I have a special guest from all over the world today. We are truly, Jason, a global program. Well, hang on, I'm trying to get global. I started English and then I went somewhere else. A global. How would you say? How would you say global program, Jason?
Well, I don't probably say it the way that you're intending to say it, which is like a stereotype of a Victorian British man. So I'm like, I'd say a global program. Yeah, not the global program.
What did I say? What did I say?
Yours was quite similar to that. It's like global program. That's
like a California thing, dude. It's like a global program. Hey, everybody. Listen, as you can tell, I've got my crazy allergies going again. I forgot to take my pills 2 days in a row. And if I do that, my whole body goes to shit because we were out. I went to CVS, bought the stuff. Remember when I traveled, I had all kinds of issues. So Jason's back on because I had him on a long time ago and he was talking a big game and blah, 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 best fitness race in the world. And I go over there and I go, oh, this thing's pretty good. And then he opens it up to the rest of the world, and his phone, his DMs are ringing off the hook, and he's sorting out where to put this thing. And I'm excited as it is fast becoming a big player in the space. You saw today the numbers I posted with HYROX, I'm sure, how many they did this past weekend. And I called my friend Ian K, Jason, and said, here's how you know our sport is growing. That's a statistic. That's I put it in LinkedIn because people give a shit over there, like about that. And people share it. People share that just like they share, other stuff. So that goes to show you, if I put, hey, there was a big weekend at Spartan necessarily, I don't think it gets shared. But many, many people are so connected to fitness racing that they're like, look at this, look at this, look at this. People that were there, people that weren't there. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Did you want more then?
Yeah. Any thoughts on HYROX? 14,000 people at Excel this weekend.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it wasn't there like 16,000 at Birmingham. I mean, HYROX is, fitness racing is what you'd call like a micro niche. You've got the fitness industry and you've got niches within that, and fitness racing is a real sort of niche within that, the fitness industry. And HYROX has done something special, which is transcend its own niche, where you've got a bubble of people that do a certain race, and HYROX has entered the mainstream, in my opinion. You walk through a town centre, there'll be a lot of people that don't know what fitness racing is, but there's a lot of people that don't know what a gym is. But yeah, it's transcended. It's gone. It's hitting the mainstream, and it's just unbelievable. It's a lot of people ask me what my thoughts are on all HYROX. They're always very intrigued when you're like a race director of a new race, and it's like HYROX has laid the path, and they're smashing it. And it's for the little guys to sort of look at what they're doing and sort of see, right, what are they doing. It's not necessarily what they're doing right and wrong. It's just like, what can we do differently? How can we innovate? How can if you're a smaller guy, you've got to work harder. And you become like that indie company. There's almost like a honeymoon period for you where you get a lot of grace. HYROX will have less grace now, but you can't argue with the numbers that people will say, oh, HYROX, they might say moan about something HYROX has done, but when they sell out tens of thousands of tickets in the UK in minutes, numbers speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, and just because I'm a big fan of facts in this particular sticking point, which I've always been with obstacle racing, is Birmingham finishers 13,816. London this past weekend 14,194. So about 300 more. So they probably said 15,000 in Birmingham. They're going to say 17,000 from this weekend. They're going to include tickets sold. They're going to include spectators, and that's fine. All I can go on is actual finishers, and even those aren't exact because we count doubles as two people. Maybe one or both of those people already raced, but at least it's universal across all the races. And if I went back all the way to 21, they had like 300 people. So, 21 to 24, 300 people or 600 people to 14,000 people. It's just unreal. And as I've been saying, we still haven't scratched the surface here in America. We still haven't really blown it up the way it's going to blow up, I think. So that leads me to talking to you about, you have started to talk to people, and now you're beyond just fielding calls. You're actually saying to people, you're the official license holder. We're gonna have somebody else on short to talk about their region, but Mark and Lauren did a big announcement about Chicago, and I know they're going to help with more of America. Tell me what other countries you've got kind of official, which ones are good to go? Like they've said, I'm a guy, have they signed something with you? And how many are kind of, you're on the way to getting something?
So we've got, obviously, I'm the guy in the UK, so that's like England and Wales, Scotland. We want to get over to Ireland.
If it got big enough though, you'd have a north and south, right? Like if you couldn't cover all of England anymore, don't you think you'd want to do that?
Yeah, like we're going to have, there's no doubt we're going to have 20, 30, 40 races in the UK alone. So we'll have event managers in the south and in Scotland. And the way in which we're expanding is with event management partnerships. So it makes sense for someone to have an area of exclusivity, including me and my team. Because it's more profitable that way. But the way we want things to run internationally and is, if it's in South Africa, we want South Africa to run the race, and it run Deadly Dozen South Africa. So we've got the US, a lot of the US, predominantly the East Coast, covered, the more eastern side. So we've got, Chicago, we've got Texas, we've got like New York area, pretty much people wanting to do the entire East Coast of America. We've got the Southeast. So that's all confirmed, and that's good to go. We're going to have several competitions in the States next year. We've got Mexico, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic confirmed. Races will be going live. Trying to get like Mexico City, but we're trying to get all over Mexico. We're close to sort of confirming the west coast of Canada. We would like to be on, obviously, Toronto area as well. Working on South Africa, we've got a couple of guys, guys that we're in talks with and look like very good guys. We've had talks with people across Europe, but we've got obviously Australia confirmed as well. So that's more on the East Coast. So we're talking like Melbourne, Brisbane, areas like that, Sydney. So yeah, trying to think if I've missed any really obvious ones. It's bizarre actually. We being in the UK, we're getting more people further afield than we are in like mainland Europe. But people are showing interest, and we've had a lot of talks in Spain, Italy, places like that. But the US has probably been the fastest. But I think there's an element of that's cultural. I think America, not to stereotype everyone, but the Americans are a little bit more all in. Whereas I speak to someone in the Mediterranean, and what we tend to hear is like, right, we'll get back to you in a few weeks, or we'll get back to you in a few months. I have a call with someone in the States, and they're almost like, let's go, let's do it. There's a very much like a let's have it, let's go. And I've really appreciated that from the guys in the States. And we've seen the same actually in Australia. They've it's essentially two sides of the world compared to us of being the fastest to take it on board. And hopefully, I do want to cover every European country. We are going to be in 10 countries next year, with dozens of events, but the idea is to be in hundreds of countries.
So what do you think?
I'm sure we'll get onto that.
What do you think the path to success will be with the countries? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think the sort of gym events feeding the larger events and vice versa? Like, like DEKA, for example, still doesn't have big numbers at their events, but they seem to be okay with that, and they're okay with just a bunch of strongs and fits that gyms can put on 3-4 times a year. How do you see it going, or do you think it's going to be just country dependent? Also, by the way, welcome to the chat. Eden's always here. We usually have a lot of the same regular folks. Be sure to check in. Let me know where you're checking in from today. Questions you have for Mr. Curtis about Deadly Dozen or anything else, fire them away. Go ahead, Jason.
So yeah, basically what's funny is we sold out 5 races in 2024. So this year in the UK, being the first year of launching, and we didn't have any of the gym races then. So we had the ideas for all of them, but none of them were live. So what's turning into the strategy of most of the strategic directors, so a little info on how we operate is we have event management agreements. They become strategic directors for a set location, and their job is, right, build Deadly Dozen, whatever the territory is, whether it's a town, city, country, or whatnot. Now, it seems like most of the strategic directors are taking the approach of, we're going to start with the DFT, the Deadly Fitness Test, gym tours, get gyms on board. We're going to run official gym comps like the Strong, the most accessible, labor only, exercise only one, into the erg events. And then that sort of filters people through to the main track event. I don't think that needs to be done. Like I said, we sold like 500 tickets in 2 hours for our September event, and we had no gym events. So far in year one, we've gained almost 50 gym affiliates across the UK, and we signed up our first Mexican gym affiliate a couple of days ago. So I think the gym events will be the funnel. Essentially, is your first point of call. Will be doing a bit of Deadly Dozen training, maybe at an affiliate gym, or seeing it. Obviously, with it being very accessible. But I do think then it will be people trying the gym-based events that, you know, as some of the listeners might know from if they've seen Deadly Dozen, is the beauty of the Deadly Dozen is it's bodyweight, kettlebell, dumbbell, and weight plate exercises with the 400-meter runs in between. Obviously, we can take away the 400-meter runs and have a strong event, or we can add a row, a ski, a bike erg, an air bike. You could even do a swim. So you've got all these gym events where gyms, if they've got the space, most of the time they've got the equipment. So it's incredibly accessible. So I do see it being, now that we're quite well established with the gym races and the track race being the main event, is that what the strategic directors will do is establish lots of gyms in a location that are running Deadly Dozen training, doing the official comps, which are obviously quite profitable for gyms. And then that filters through into the main tracker race, which we're trying to get, you know, 600 plus people at least to run these events. And the idea, the difference with Deadly Dozen is obviously we want lots of them events, and the track race is the #1 priority. So
Houston, Texas 94 is a world championship on the horizon. How long before you're going to have leaderboards and regional and or world champs?
So we're actually working on developing, because we want the leaderboards to be really good. We're developing them with a US company actually to develop global leaderboards. So there'll be a global leaderboard for the 8 official races. So you've got, and also virtual races like the Deadly Strong, which is the non-judged sort of fitness test. So you'll have global leaderboards for Deadly Run, Deadly, I'll list them all: Deadly Strong, Deadly Erg 2, Deadly Row Erg, Deadly Ski Erg, Deadly Bike Erg, Deadly Air Bike. So you'll have, and then we'll have special edition races and stuff. You'll have leaderboards for them. You'll get breakdowns for all of your labors, all of your run times or your row times. That will be regional, it'll be national, it'll be international leaderboards. Then what we're trying to do is there will be an annual world championships. Now this is the next big step. So obviously a big step for us has been international expansion. Right now, our main aim is produce, deliver, like execute a world-class race experience on athletics tracks in dozens of countries worldwide. However, if you want to be respected as a sport, then you need that elite contingency. You need the world championship. So we're at the largest athletic stadium in the UK, which is Alexander Stadium in Birmingham, the Midlands. They held the Commonwealth Game in 2022. We'll likely ramp up the prizes and see it as a championship race. It'll almost be like a mock championship. Realistically, I think it'll be 2026 before we're really at the point of our major sponsors start going, right, let's give, because if we want elite athletes to come, which we are, I'm sure we'll talk about tonight, we are having some elite athletes pay some real attention to Deadly Dozen, is, you know, they need to be paid. There needs to be worthwhile. So next year at the Alexander Stadium, we're leaning into sort of trying to push elite waves and elite category and have greater prizes. Realistically, 2026 will be like a real world stage, world championship, where we put together, you know, what's important to us is making sure that athletes go, you know what, this is a fair, well-run competition. Movement standards are everything, and also it's a competition that is worth doing, as in terms of, you know, financially rewarding, good prizes, good exposure, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely on the cards. We just need to make sure we do it right. You know, help from people like yourself, obviously, Matt, is key, because you know the sport inside out, and obviously coming from OCR as well. Where do people go right? Where do people go wrong? how can we do a world championship that is respected by the racing community, basically?
Hey, are you on Wi-Fi over there? I mean, I know you live near you live up there in the north near the wall, but is your signal any better? Because you're definitely very choppy to me.
Let me try and turn this on now. Wait there. It has been last time, wasn't it? I was all blurry, which is probably beneficial to the viewer.
Yeah, close close whatever windows you got, and
I think that's got worse.
Nope, we lost it for a second.
I think because you've frozen. Wait there. Okay, we froze. Hopefully, I'll be back soon.
Okay. In the meantime, you can answer this question from Katie Harrison Fitness. Thank you for joining us. Will you have Deadly Dozen coaching certs or ambassador opportunities in the future? And what will those look like? Great question, Katie. Where are you checking in from, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Just start talking. It's fine. Because remember, this is podcast as well. So.
Yeah, I completely froze then. Were you talking for a while? You said I had bad signal, then you froze.
You're completely frozen still, but I asked a question. Now? Yes. Yes.
Okay. I can see a question which says, will you have DD coaches such or ambassador opportunities in the future?
Yes, and she's asking from Houston, and I know you got some folks in Texas, I think, that are working on stuff. So yes, why don't you let her know what the DDE coaching certs or opportunities might be?
So, yeah, so we'll be in Houston, Texas next year. So yeah, fortunately, so my background is in strength conditioning. So as a military physical training instructor, I've worked with lots of elite level sport. I've published, dozens of training manuals. So we actually own an academy. So I own a gym and an academy where we qualify personal trainers as S&C coaches worldwide. We've got quite a lot of students within the academy. So we're going to tie that into the Deadly Dozen. So we have got an affiliation, which me being a gym owner, I didn't want an affiliation fee that seemed like a real expense to gyms. I wanted it to be a cheap affiliation. So it's like £12 a month, $12 a month to be part of Deadly Dozen. And what we have within that is an exam to become a master coach, which is just a 60-question multiple choice exam that sort of trainers can take to ensure that they've got, good understanding, and that's the master coach. But we are looking at developing education into fitness racing, programming and periodization for essentially hybrid fitness. So my background is strength and conditioning, athletic development. I think there's a huge gap there to really lean into the education and the certifications, because we can provide accredited certifications through my academy. And I think there's massive room within the industry to have, for example, a level 4 certificate in fitness racing. And that wouldn't necessarily be through Deadly Dozen, but we do have affiliate system. You go to deadlydozen.com, you can sign up as a gym affiliate or a coach, and you get access to education and whatnot and resources. And you can also take the Deadly Dozen Master Coach exam, which essentially gives you that badge.
All right, you got a little bit better. I don't know why you're so. Did you change to, what do you call it, to Wi-Fi?
Yeah, let me change to. Let me turn this off. Hopefully, I won't go out. I'll probably.
Are there other people in your
gym
using your Wi-Fi? Are there other people in your gym using your Wi-Fi that you can tell them to stop? Are they running a television?
I'm at home. I'm at home.
You're
Usually
home.
It's all right. Yeah. So am I coming across? Is it workable or not?
I mean, now you're completely frozen. Why don't you just try to leave and come back?
Okay, wait there. Let me go off this.
All right, I just kicked him out. We'll wait for him to come back. And again, I apologize, guys. These crazy freaking allergies that I have. Also, like I said, we have another guest coming on soon. If you want to fire any questions about Deadly Dozen or me, do you have any questions for Matt B. Davis? Who's Elsa? Oh, I get it. Frozen. Ha. Hey, Brendan. What's up, buddy? Jason Curtis, founder
Hopefully
of the...
that's better.
It's slightly better. Slightly better. Oh, now you're frozen again. Oh. Okay, now you're coming in okay. So
good.
Oh, the short answer for when there's going to be a world championship, do we think 2025 or 2026? The short answer.
I think we'll run the August 23rd as a championship race. I think it would be I think we can lean into August 21st as the first ever championship race.
Because that's your last race of the year, because you said the September race was a bit too woody.
No. So that the October race in the UK at the track that we're at. So we will have races after August 23rd. There will be 2 races in the UK in September, and obviously the international races will be running year round. But we think that a good time for a world championship is probably end of August into September in the UK. But like I say, we'll be looking to travel around the world to do the world championships. It makes sense that August 23rd at Alexander Stadium is essentially our world championships, year 2 world championships. Invite a load of athletes. Might get some top level HYROXers come down. We're already speaking to some that are interested in potentially coming to August. Try and speak to some CrossFitters, different people within fitness racing, different athletes from different sports. So that's what we'll push for. August 24th, Birmingham, Alexander Stadium, and then obviously improve from there.
So we answered this question earlier about the West Coast, but we'll answer it again. Deadly Dozen coming to Canada West Coast, which for Americans who don't know, Canada is not just above Buffalo and Michigan. Canada goes all the way out to above Washington, Oregon, and California. So it's very different part of the country.
Vancouver.
So you said yes, correct? You are talking to somebody out there? And by the way, Texas and Michigan and Chicago are not East Coast. Those are the middle of the country. Southwest, Texas is Southwest. Chicago is called the Midwest. East Coast is like from Maine all the way down to Florida. But technically Maine to Georgia, because Florida is its own animal.
Yeah, so we're speaking to guys in Canada, and in all honesty, Canada is a big place, and we've got to be very cautious at this point, because at first it was, we've got great people, and at first we've just had someone join.
Hello, how you going?
Hi, how we doing?
I was gonna let you finish your sentence, but welcome to the program, Bernice Kelly.
Hello, Matthew Davis.
Sister of, excuse me while I say it, JK.
JK, no. JK is my brother. He is Bernice Kelly's brother.
That's what I get it. Well, Bernice, thanks for jumping on. You are much further away from me than Jason is, but your signal's amazing. You must have the good internet down there.
We do have the 5G down under.
5G down under.
5G down under.
Did you see my post yesterday with Jocko?
I didn't. No, I must have missed that one. What was that one?
Please go to my stories right now. You have to go, because young people probably don't know who this is, but you might, because your parents know who he is.
No idea. Who is he?
You don't know? You don't recognize that guy?
No.
Turn it up. Turn the sound up.
What's good, man? Your boy,
this guy?
Coach D, y'all see me out here running.
No. Back. It might be gone already.
This guy.
We do too at Builder Sports. So
no. That's Hunter. Forget it. Okay, it's gone. This guy. Hang on. You guys are gonna have to deal with this.
What you're talking about? I've got no clue.
Well, for some reason there was this Australia and New Zealand fascination in America in the mid to late 80s. So we had the Crocodile Dundee, of course, right? You know who that is?
I do know Crocodile Dundee.
And you know who this guy? This is this guy.
One of these.
Yeah, look, I'm probably a little bit too young.
Right, the extraordinary energizer. One of these. One of these.
So do you see how horribly annoying that is?
I do, but don't you just love us Aussies?
I know, I love Aussies. Listen, Foster's became a thing. There was a bunch of big ads for that. It was like Australian for beer, shrimp on the barbie, all that shit. So people are very annoyed today by people on Instagram and TikTokers. And so I was using him as an example of they've always been here. They've always been. Imagine hearing that guy on your television 3 or 4 times a day. Okay.
It would
really
be annoying. I got to say though, Matt, not one person in Australia drinks Foster's beer. I have never seen Foster's beer drunk down under. I've actually only seen it in the UK and the US.
Right. So let this be a lesson. I'm going to say this a lot of times, okay, over the next 6 months. When you come to Atlanta, we do not call it Hotlanta. If you call it Hotlanta, we will immediately walk away from you. So don't do that. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Bernice, let's talk about you and James bringing the Deadly Dozen down under.
We are a bit of a family get together. My husband's involved as well. We're very excited to be working with Jason to bring it down under in 2025. So we've been in talks with a few venues down here. But look, not to give anything away just yet. We're still trying to lock in some dates and venues, but we will most definitely be doing Sydney and Brisbane next year with the potential for Melbourne as well. So it's all happening.
So that's the East Coast. So
that is the East Coast.
What's the most northern of those?
Brisbane. So yeah, as a lot of your viewers would know, Australia is so spread out. For context, HYROX, when they first came here in 2023, they did just a Sydney and Melbourne. Sydney would be our probably biggest city across Australia. Melbourne, probably second biggest. Brisbane is in the bottom of Queensland. So that is the most northern of the 3. But it's actually not even at the tip of Australia. Up the top there, you've got your more regional towns. So probably won't head there yet, but that's definitely on the horizons possibly for 2026.
So since you've never been on the show before, why don't you let folks know you have a journalism background, right? And that's why you guys started your media stuff out there.
Yep. Yeah. So I've come from a journalism background and always loved my sport. I mean, look, I'd love to say I'm the fittest sibling, but I don't think anyone will believe me if I say that. So, but yeah, no, I've loved my sport, and James and I just kind of saw a bit of an opportunity here in Oz. Hybrid sport. I feel like we're like we always are. We're about a year or 2 behind you guys in the US and the UK. It's really only just starting to take off here. Probably COVID affected that a lot, with HYROX trying to bring itself down under. It really wasn't able to make its mark here until 2023. This year in particular, they're about to hold their 5th event in this year alone in Melbourne coming up next weekend. It is just skyrocketing at the moment. But unfortunately, Matt, and this is why Deadly Dozen came about, HYROX is really the only player in the field here in Australia at the moment, and New Zealand. DEKA has been trying to make its mark, but it hasn't really, if I'm being honest. So we really just saw this opportunity with Jason, with Deadly Dozen, that it's such a great event. We've seen how quickly its popularity has risen over in the UK, and I have no doubt. Oh, see you, Jason. There he is. I have no doubt it's going to take off here in Australia. People are just itching for fitness racing competitions. I'm asked all the time with our hybrid sport media platform, where's some other competitions that we can do? We have the turf games, so we do have that, but people are just itching for the next HYROX. They're itching for the next competition that they can get involved in. So it's just going to be so great that we've got another player now, so people can be doing a HYROX and a Deadly Dozen all within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yeah, and we're behind too. We're behind the UK and Europe too, which is good news. I mean, Jason and I talk offline a lot about how I know I've said this once, but I'm going to keep saying it. If you look at Instagram numbers, which I do, our number one city is London. So what does that tell you? If my biggest audience, which clearly should be America, and the country as a whole is bigger, but that city still finds me more than Americans do, and so Americans still don't fucking know. Is my point. So your events were bigger than our events. Even your first APAC event was bigger than our June New York event in terms of people. I mean, they were close, but yeah, we're all scratching the surface, and it's why I'm so excited. You know, I hate to just poop on DEKA all the time, but when I went to Deadly Dozen, my thought, and I said it to Jason, I said, this is what DEKA wants to be, but they're just not quite there in terms of it's not as hard or intimidating, but DEKA just feels like an inferior product, and Deadly Dozen doesn't. It just doesn't. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the call. I just believe it. And it's unfortunate because DEKA is a product of Spartan. So it's they're sort of hamstrung by what they can do. Whereas Jason, you know, as a business guy in his gym there in wherever the hell he lives, Macclesfield, which no one's heard of, right? Like he's launching this brand all over the world. So yeah, I think we're all just scratching the surface.
So how many people, Matt, did you have at the New York event for HYROX, for example?
So New York, I just looked at this, 4,027, and it was
okay, right. No, that is less than ours. So I think Melbourne, we had 6,000 this year compared to about 1,500 last year. So
Melbourne actual finishers 6647. Then Singapore was 6,000, and then Sydney was 5752. Here's something interesting that Ian K and I were talking offline about. Melbourne had 250 teams, 33 men, 123 women, 94 mixed. Singapore had 383 teams. We already know that they do the most. The Asian countries have the most relays for various reasons. Only less than 100 teams in London, only 97 teams in London. Why do we think that is? 23 men, 49 women, 25 mixed. So almost like the tiniest percent want to do relays in England. And they're the most crazy for it.
More people doing individuals in London?
Yes, but you just think as a percentage, there would be, again, the Asians, I think it's because with Asians, I think the relay is an easier point of entry because they're just not as strong. They're just a smaller people. It's just, I'm not being mean. That's to my logic. And also Ian K pointed out that they do fitness through work. And so like their work teams show up. But anyway, you guys show up way more in teams than even than the Americans.
Yeah. I'm wondering if a part of it is actually that it is still so new here in Australia that it is kind of just a way in, is to start with a team event. It's something that my brother and I often talk about is even just the word pro. Our pro waves are often, even the female pro waves are often, 23 girls in just the one wave. And that's it for the entire event. So I think the word pro seems to really frighten people off. I don't know if that will change with the more, hybrid events that come along and, bringing Deadly Dozen along and just showing people that it really is accessible and that anyone can do it, for example, with the Deadly Dozen event. But I just wonder if it's because it's still a bit of a new fitness craze here in Australia.
Yeah, you guys had 52 women pro in...
Is that Melbourne, maybe?
In Melbourne. Sydney, if this is correct, you had 363, though. Is that right? It feels like that could be right.
That wouldn't be... No, definitely not. I'm sure there was only... I think maybe I'm thinking of Brisbane. There was only about 20 or 30 odd.
Cape Town had 32.
Yeah.
This could be wrong. Singapore had 58. Anyway.
Hopefully that will change and people will stop having... Look, I mean, I can't talk. I've never done a pro in my life. And I don't have any plans to. So I can't really talk. But I think people do get a little bit scared off with the word pro. And it's one thing that my husband and I just loved with the idea of Deadly Dozen is that it is not the pro level. It's just the same race on the track. I think with the weights as well, and the fact that it's 400-meter loops, it feels a lot more accessible for people rather than the 1 kilometer around. But on top of that, it's something that Jason has spoken to, that people then kind of go ham on it. You're more likely to probably redline, you know, the really competitive people. I mean, my brother's already been asking what's the world record for Deadly Dozen because he wants to go and break it. So, you know, people are going to probably more likely to redline.
Just don't claim an Aussie record. Just call it a world record, Bernice.
Yeah, they do like to do that, don't they, HYROX?
Well, everybody. Well, here's funny though. I saw this. I watched a video the other day, and this woman said she was the first Australian something to have like this many weeks at number 1. Or I thought, okay, they do it in music too. Everybody just wants to create their own little country records.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you something. Well, the other thing I really enjoyed about, and that I think makes it such a good event, is it's 1 lap around, right? That never changes. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then station 1, station 2, station 3, it's never not in order. So it's kind of, I think, a perfect recipe that's like, well, duh, that's the way you do it.
Yeah. I was actually saying to my mum the other day, she's maybe 65, that she would never do a HYROX. It just seems too scary for her, but she's relatively fit for her age. And I really do mean this. I said to her, Mum, you could probably do a Deadly Dozen. I think it is that little bit more accessible for people, that I think someone, you know, such as my mum, is more likely to go and do a Deadly Dozen than a HYROX, just because of those smaller loops, and the exercises maybe come across. Not saying that it's going to be easy though, like it's still going to be tough. It's still a tough race, but it's just that little bit more accessible for people.
Jason is listening intently.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to get the, you know, to hear people talking about the race, you know, is like people that are quite deep in the sort of fitness racing space to sort of talk about Deadly Dozen, obviously in a nice way, which is a bonus. But yeah, it's interesting to hear how people perceive, because obviously when I designed the race, it was very much from an objective view, a lot of research into fitness racing, HYROX, DEKA, CrossFit, my sort of background as an S&C coach, but then, you know, trying to be formulaic to produce something that is what I wanted was the most accessible and scalable fitness racing business within this industry in the world, something that we could take to thousands of tracks worldwide. And like I say, the concept's been proven by the sort of response we've had, and it's interesting to see every time we speak to people. Like I was listening then. What was good for me is it's hearing what are the points that people pick up on that are key to hopefully the success of Deadly Dozen. And it often comes back to the accessibility. It's not just like Bernice said, it's anything can be the hardest thing you've ever done if you put 110% into it. And actually shorter races often end up red zoning you more, as was said, but it's about how accessible is it as a whole. There is certain races that when you look at them go, you know what, that's a bit out of my reach, even though they probably could do it. And the 1Ks are massive for that. And also going from cardio into cardio, that really scares a lot of people, where it's like 1K row into 1K run, 1K row, 1K run. Whereas the Deadly Dozen's like, it's a bit of everything. It's all the different gym movements in their simple form. So it seems to be this sort of Goldilocks zone of what people want within fitness racing, and that's what we're seeing.
The Goldilocks of fitness racing. This one's just right.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Is well, what we found is that. So don't get me wrong. Like all the fitness races, it's very much preference. But we found that the 400 meter, that one loop of a track, you get non-runners that would never run any running event or run a 1K. But you say, would you run a loop around the track? I mean, they probably don't remember how big a track is. But you say, would you run a loop of a track? Like, yeah, fine, that'd be great. It's almost like a K for some people is like 10K, and a 400 meter is perceived as like 50 meters. Right. It's just not perceived as particularly daunting for people. It's just not. Even though the 400 meter run at the Olympics is considered physiologically the hardest event there is, because it's the longest sprint you can do, right? But obviously you're not sprinting 12 of them with 60 goblet squats and 60 meters of burpee broad jumps and 120 meters of bear crawl. But it is, and it's not through into it. Obviously, there's a lot of designs gone into it, but there's a lot of luck that I produced this fitness race that I thought was great, and it might have just come to that when me and a few of my gym members think, you know what, Dre, this is really cool, but it's not. It's reached tens of thousands of people worldwide, essentially. And the reason it's done that is not because we've got great marketing, it's just because we've produced something that there's demand for. So there's a demand for fitness racing that's been created by, you know, OCR, CrossFit, DEKA, and then, you know, your turf games, battle cat, all these different ones, and predominantly HYROX has driven things through and to new heights. But then Deadly Dozen's come along and said, okay, well, we're going to have 12 400s, which are incredibly accessible. We're going to have all the simple gym movements that you do. So, you know, walking, lunges, dumbbell push press, weight plate ground swerve, so weight plate clean and press, dumbbell snatch, you know, and a few other farmers carry, overhead carry, all these simple things that you do in a gym, stuff that I give to youth athletes to get them ready for all their different sports. And people are just lapping it up. And obviously with the different gym events as well, people are like, well, if you hate running, do the strong, you can do the erg, you can do, you know, the ski erg, the row erg. So it's an incredibly versatile race.
I think I was just going to say, Matt, you're just going to find people, it's just another opportunity for anyone taking their HYROX journey quite seriously, like come out and race this one. It's another opportunity to race because, you know, here in Australia, I mean, we're probably a little bit like you guys in the US where we're so spread out. Next year, for example, we at least do have a spread out season of HYROX compared to what we had this year. It was so jam-packed within a few months, but we've only got the opportunity to race a HYROX once every 3 months here. And that's if you're willing to fly to Perth, which it's easier for me to get to New Zealand than it is to Perth, for example, where I live in Sydney. So you're probably not going to. You've probably only got 3 opportunities next year to race a HYROX in Australia if you live on the eastern coast. So, you know, bringing an event like Deadly Dozen for us here is just great that it gives people another opportunity to race, you know, a fitness racing event.
All right, I'm going to put this question up, and then I got to go grab a charger here while you answer this question. Is the idea to be an entry event? Seems like the idea is to be accessible over everything. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, and I will be right back while you answer that.
So I'll start. So basically, I think that Deadly Dozen, I mean, we've had thousands of HYROXers do the Deadly Dozen and hundreds, if not maybe thousands of CrossFitters do the Deadly Dozen, and a lot of them have got back to us and said, you know, the CrossFitters thought the weights were going to be light and the HYROXers thought the runs were going to be because they were short. And what's actually happened, hopefully I'm not breaking up, what's actually happened is a lot of people have said it's the hardest race they've ever done because exactly that, you're running the 400s hard and you're doing high reps of these moderately loaded exercises, but it's high reps. And so yes, for some people it's going to be the hardest race they've ever done. But there's no doubt, essentially, that it is going to be an exceptionally good feeder race. Yeah, an exceptionally good feeder race for HYROX because we're able to go to hundreds, if not thousands, of locations that HYROX never will. And essentially, we're going to have, you know, 500-600 plus people racing 12x400s and different resistance-based exercises that's going to build incredible aerobic power and muscle endurance. It's going to be a great event for people that are maybe daunted.
Yep, he's gone. And it's just me on here. I'll just say also on the back of what Jason was saying, I think that's one thing we're keen to do here in Oz is just be able to bring it to more regional cities that, yeah, as Jason was saying, unfortunately, it's difficult, I guess, for HYROX just given the size of convention centers that they need to hire. But that's one thing that we're really keen to do. Matt, I don't know if you're there because it's just me sitting alone on this YouTube live. Nope, still just me. All right, I'll just keep talking. Yeah, no, we're really excited to be bringing it down here. I know Mark and Lauren are bringing it to Chicago as well. So yeah, it's really only just getting started. Deadly Dozen as an event, it's just taken off so much in the UK. Matt B. Davis, are you there? Anyway, while I'm here, if you want to go and follow us, Hybrid Sport Media on Instagram, or follow us on Spotify. My brother and I, we actually just recorded with James Newbury from the CrossFit scene, who is racing a mixed doubles with Tia Claire Toomey in Melbourne in a week and a half. Hey, Jason.
Hi, how we doing? Yeah, kick me out. I need to get a grip of my
all right.
Wi-Fi, obviously, don't I?
No,
So
it was funny.
I don't know where I go.
It was just me because Matt wasn't here either. So the poor people viewing, I just was talking to a microphone.
Yeah, they can all blame me because it's my Wi-Fi must be. So I need to get that sorted.
No, that's
but yeah,
all
like
good.
us.
But yeah, I was kind of going off the back of what you were saying. One thing that my husband Dan and I just love about the event is that hopefully bringing it to some of those regional towns that unfortunately, just because of the setup of a HYROX, I'm sure it can be very difficult to be able to bring to some of those more regional towns. I mean, some of our biggest cities here in Australia are our regional cities in northern Queensland and more regional New South Wales cities, Newcastle, and we're really excited to be able to try and bring it to those cities as well, rather than just the capital cities that HYROX can really hit here.
Yeah, and it's what we found is, if we're a country the size of England and we can run 10 races in, if we can sell out 10 races in year 2, then there's no reason why each state in America, for example, couldn't have 10, 15 plus races as the sport grows. But one thing I would say is, obviously we're pushing accessibility and all that sort of stuff. I was bombarded when I released the race and we got quite a few thousand followers and all. I was bombarded by CrossFitters, as I said, that said some of them said them weights are pathetic. And the HYROXers were like, I can't wait to sprint the 400s. Now, at this point, I'd obviously ran simulations of the race like dozens and dozens of times and with dozens of people. And trust me, like anyone that looks at the race and go, it's either inexperience or I don't know. But anyone that looks at the race and goes, oh, that's easy, they're going to get the shock of their life, because the majority of people that have come from decent level fitness racing backgrounds have turned around and said, I didn't expect that to be as hard as it was. And overwhelmingly, a lot of people have said it's the hardest thing they've ever done. And it's just the nature of the races. One loop of the track will encourage you to go fast. And then you do 60 squats or 120 meters of bear crawl, and it starts to accumulate, and people will get a shot. If you think the race is going to be easy, it's definitely going to be one of the hardest races you've ever done. And if it's not, then you're not trying very hard. You're probably not going to get a good time. We have had people, for example, not to sort of sound like I'm calling people out, that have said that looks easy and then proceeded to do it in like 90 minutes when the top guys are sort of low end 40 minutes. And it's like, well, how can you say a race is easy and then do it in double the time of the top guys? It's like, go harder.
Yeah, I did it in an hour and 15 minutes. Oh no, I was with a partner. I want to ask some other Aussie questions since Bernice is here. And if you want to stay on, Jason, we can, and talk Deadly Dozen stuff once in a while. But I want to ask you a bunch of questions. So first of all, I want to learn about this turf games, which I knew I heard about, but I just clicked on it, and there's like 5 events worldwide next year. I thought it was just like 1 or 2 places. Let me share this thing.
Yeah, sure. I have to admit, I'm not as across the turf games. It has gotten quite big here the last couple of years, but it was started by Aussies.
So look at this. Look at all these events. Sorry, I just lost it. Look at this: Brisbane, UK Winter, Dubai, Sydney, Glasgow. That's a lot.
Yeah, they're really growing worldwide
so
now.
It's a team event, it looks like.
Yeah, it is a team event. I believe it's teams of 4. Again, like I'm not probably the expert on turf games, but I believe it is 2 men, 2 women within a team.
So let's look at their little video here.
think it has a little bit of a similar style to like a CrossFit Games where the workouts seem to vary.
Am I supposed to know what waterfall means? Did you hear what he said? A waterfall
I can't
style?
hear the video.
Oh,
No.
he said a waterfall style, blah, blah, blah. If anybody listening knows what that's supposed to mean, because I do not.
This is one of them races that is very much like a stage race, as we discussed, Matt. You know, where I said you've got them A to B races where it's, you know, it's like a 10K, it's start to finish, HYROX, DEKA, Deadly Dozen. And then you've got races that have stages. You know, stage 1 is this, and then stage 2 is this, or zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. That's essentially like turf games.
Yeah, so that's like ATHEX does that too, right? ATHEX does like 3 different things, but you do them all. You kind of do them all in one go. Like you're going to go through, and then they're going to give you your time at the end. Staggered starts, he says. Why not just say staggered starts? Why would you even say anything? Just like, hey, your team is going to come and do this. So obviously it definitely looks more CrossFit-y if you've got, looks like a 1 rep max and a rope climb thing. But that's fine. What do you think for you guys, Bernice, for the Aussies, when HYROX started, the first event I went to, maybe even the first 2, it was a lot of athletes that I knew from OCR, and then just these random gym people. And I remember saying like, oh, we're going to need CrossFit buy-in. Like we're going to need, like when Michaela came and did it, it was a big deal because she was a games athlete. It was like, oh, well, we're going to need more CrossFit buy-in to get an audience for this. And then that did not happen. Like HYROX created its own audience. So was it the same down there? Was it started with the OCR folks, or was it always more just gym folks?
I would more say it was just gym folks. I think it's similar to what you just said, that HYROX is really just being able to create its own sport and its own athletes. I mean, we've had CrossFitters now coming to dabble in it. Obviously, we've got Tia Claire-Toomey coming to dabble in it. I just hopped off a podcast with James Newbury, who's paired up with her. So, but we've kind of got our own athletes now within HYROX Australia Circle, which is just great. It just seems that we've been able to, or HYROX has been able to create their own sport here rather than relying solely on the OCR athletes and, you know, CrossFitters coming on board to create a hype. I think HYROX has done so well to create the hype themselves here. And now that we've got, you know, JK and then Joanna Wettrick as well, just having won the Hong Kong major, it's just so great, not only on a personal level as James's sister, to be so proud of him, but the way that they are both just highlighting HYROX as a sport and hybrid fitness down here. They're just, to be honest, they're just so great for the sport themselves to continue just making it bigger and better in Australia.
So James Newbury, he did one already, right? Or 2 HYROXes?
He's actually done a fair few. So he, I did bring this up on the podcast with him. He was one of the CrossFitters who went up against James in the Sydney 2023, the very first HYROX here in Oz. You might remember Ricky Garrard and James Newbury were both in that race. And so there's a little bit of hype around that. The fact that we had some CrossFitters coming into the men's pro race, that was Sydney 2023. That was, again, you might recall, there's a little snippet of James Kelly on the rower asking to the camera, where's CrossFit? Because CrossFit hadn't come in yet. James Kelly just liking to stir the pot a little bit there. So James Newbury came 5th in that particular race, about 5 minutes behind JK. Ricky Garrard came in 2nd, and we had, I think Chris Woolley, and that's it there, Tom Rogers, coming after Ricky. So there's James Newbury. So since then, James has not done another singles, but I'm talking about James Newbury now. He's done plenty of doubles races as well as a relay or 2. He's done a mixed doubles with his partner, Lauren, like his life partner, Lauren. And now he's doing the mixed doubles with Tia Claire-Toomey. So we had a good chat about how he's been kind of preparing for that.
Well, if Tia showed up to HYROX here, the course is going to be like mobbed. The fact that she's a national treasure for you all. I assume it's going to be a fucking madhouse.
Yeah, I don't actually know from HYROX's perspective how they're going to manage that part of it, because you're right, it's a huge thing to have.
Do you
her.
think does Matt and those guys, like, they know that, right? Like, they know.
Oh
it's going to
yeah,
be,
I'm sure.
like-
Yeah, Matt Locke is just incredible at what he does. He would absolutely be on it, and he's well aware that it's going to be quite the spectacle. I think there's a couple of other CrossFitters. I know Maddie Sturt and Jay Crouch, is it? I think, are also racing. Obviously, they've got, not as big a platform as, say, Tia Claire Toomey, but there's a couple of others within the same wave. So I think the race itself, I haven't actually looked up if it's on the Saturday or Sunday, the mixed doubles, but I think the race itself is going to be a great one to watch. I'm going to try and live stream it if I can from Hybrid Sport Media. So for anyone who's listening and wants to watch it, hopefully I'll be able to live stream it. But yeah, I have no doubt HYROX would be all over it.
It's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be mad. Remind me when you're going to do it, and we'll.
I'll let you know what the time.
We'll share that because I get messages every time there's a race.
I know. Well, I even message you sometimes to be like, I wanted to watch, who was it the other day? The Dallas one with Nick Barr and Rich Ryan and Ryan Kent all in it. Yeah, I wanted to watch that, and then I think Heather did anyway. So we ended
up with 2 last minute, but we're trying to get the community to kind of all talk about, because I talked to the Race Brain guys. I'm like, do you have anybody? And so Katie Simonson, who's maybe watching right now, she said she would do it for us. She obviously can't do the women, but she'll do the men. And so if there's any men listening who can go live, we're going to try to have her on our actual channel, and so it can be consistent. And like I said, if it's not ours and it's a person's or it's Race Brain, like, I don't care. I just know people want to see it.
Yeah.
And they don't let us in the course if we go live, but they let us, if you can just be a spectator and try to get to those zones.
Well, the other thing that I'm going to be trying to live stream as well is we've obviously got the very first Elite 15 doubles race in Melbourne. And I know that they're not doing a actual YouTube live stream like they would for a major yet. But yeah, I'll definitely live stream that doubles race with the men and the women's. I'm pretty sure Joanna and Meg Martin, I think I've heard they're racing together. And then you've actually got here Chris Woolley and Tom Rogers, who came in there. Here.
Yeah. How do you spell that, Bernice?
HERE.
Yeah. What do your friends call you, by the way, Bernice?
I get Bernie, but funny story is that's actually my dad's name. So it's a little bit weird for me. Our family's really odd with names. Everyone's named after each other. So, but Bernie's fine.
What does JK call you?
Oh, he actually calls me Nin because he couldn't say my name when he was a kid.
Right.
He's gonna love me saying this story.
No, that happens.
No, he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't. Oh, look, it's a pretty hard one, Bernice. It's not that easy. So
it's definitely not very common. I know 0 Bernices.
Well, there you go. You know one.
What's James's middle name?
Michael. Yeah, James Michael Kelly. Yeah.
Okay. Was he JK growing up, or this became like his brand when he started doing fitness?
No, he definitely got JK. I don't know if you've noticed before, I just can't get around the JK. He's Jim to me. Like, I'm Jim to me. I can't get around it. I love it.
Jimmy.
He's Jimmy Jam to me.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna call him that then. It's just I have to say JK because that's how he says it.
He says, "G'day, JK."
It's JK. It's very pronounced. It's very pronounced.
He's the most Aussie they'll come.
It's he was like, "Hey, come sit down and have brekkie with me. This is me, JK."
Just throw a few snags on the barbie.
I see. I would never say that though. Just like I wouldn't say, the English. I don't do the super obvious ones either, but he does say it like that.
Right. He's very Aussie.
What's your travel schedule going to be? I mean, he goes all over. What about you?
Yeah, no, look, I unfortunately have a full-time job. I mean, he does as well, but he's
Are you a
lucky.
journo? Are you a full-time journo?
Not a journo anymore. I work more within the government relations, strategic comms side of things.
Ooh,
but
that sounds
yeah,
fancy.
it's very fancy.
Will you be
But,
interfacing with our new president?
definitely not. No, I'm definitely not that high up. But no, I don't have a crazy travel schedule like James. I mean, James has just grown his JK Hybrid coaching business to a point where he can really travel to anywhere he likes and really work from there. But, you know, he's been on a lot of podcasts before just saying he's also just committed to the sport of HYROX, and that's what he perceives he needs to do in order to really do well. Like for him, I know for Vegas, for example, he'll probably travel there about 2 weeks prior to that race just to settle in. And, you know, obviously the time zone difference is huge for us anywhere we go.
And hit probably the Mirage and the Bellagio and all that stuff too.
Of course. Yeah, of course. He'll hit up the pokies, win some money for his sister.
Will you be joining us in Chicago, the World Championship?
I definitely will. I will not miss. I don't know if you know, but I was there for the Nice World Champs. I came over to watch James because I had a sneaky feeling. I knew how his training had changed with Anthony Pericini, and I knew he was going to podium. I had no doubt as his sister. I literally backed him that much. So I flew over I was there for 48 hours. It was crazy. The craziest thing I've probably ever done in my lifetime is to fly from Australia to France. For context, it takes 24 hours to get there. So I was probably in the air as much as I was on land for that particular weekend.
I don't know how you did that. Jason knows how much a simple flight to England sets me back. It took me 4 days to drive, what should have been 3 hours.
I don't think my body clock ever ticked over, which was probably the secret to it, was just stay within your normal time zone and you'll be fine. So, and I was just running on so much adrenaline watching him race, and the whole event itself was so great.
Well, speaking of travel, Jason, I know I invited you already, but are you gonna come down to the Fit Fest? I really think it would be good for you and your brand to kind of meet. You know, I think anybody you introduce yourself to will say, "Oh yes, I've heard about that," and just a good way for you to kind of, whether it's a, you know, potential sponsor or, you know, athletes, you should come over.
Yeah, down in Birmingham.
Yes, Birmingham at the NEC.
Birmingham. Yeah, that wasn't bad. Yeah, I'll come down. It's probably down the Friday. Just let me know when's best, and I'll travel down. So I still work like 40 hours a week in my gym and run the academy and stuff like that. But yeah, I can come down. I'm a lot more flexible these days, a little bit more. So I'll come down and meet people. That's really the next big step, is all the networking really with the different faces within the industry, i.e. the fitness racing industry.
No, I think it'll be really good. I think the more you get it out there, the more, like I said, people will be like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." Plus it's just a good time. You know what I mean? It's a good time. You'll see me. I'm a lot of fun. You've spent time with me before. I'm a hoot.
Yeah, you were all right. Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah.
Hang on, I'm trying to get a couple of other. What's that?
I said you're a little bit tired, weren't you? Initially, you perked up, but it's well, it's not a long drive. It's a reasonable drive, but jet lag's a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just not what I used to be. But listen, you guys want to hear? I know you guys are really interested in my travel logs. Bernice, would you like to hear my interesting travel logs?
Of course, always.
So it's not that long of a flight. It really isn't. It's only, I think it's 8 going and 10 coming back. So the 8 over is not that bad, especially if you think it's night for a lot of it, right? However, I cannot sleep. I used to just be able to just go out. So I haven't been able to. But last flight I was on, when I walked back to the back to get some food or use the bathroom or stretch my legs, I noticed the guy in the very back row had the whole row to himself. And I was like, that's the move. I'm going to reserve that seat. So I couldn't pull the trigger though. I kept looking at it every day and I saw the back row open and I was like, but what if, I don't know. And so today I talked to my wife and she's like, well, why don't you try? Because you already know you can't sleep the other way. Why don't you just do it? And I went today and someone took that seat and he's going to probably be laying down the whole fucking time. And I'm so mad right now.
You got to do it. I did that for Hong Kong. We got the whole row. It's worth doing it. You just got to risk it. But my mum and I went together and we book, so if you're with someone, you book one seat one end and one seat the other end. And then you do risk someone being in between you.
Right.
Touch wood. It's never happened.
Touch wood.
Yep. Touch wood.
We say knock on wood here in America.
Oh, no, I'm going to stick with touch on wood.
How about you, Jason? What do we say in the UK?
I think you say both. I've heard it. The thing is, in the UK, there's a lot of dialects up and down. That you only have to throw a stone and someone speaks with a different accent. So they'd argue over that, like London to Manchester, really. I would say probably knock on wood or touch wood. No, you'd say both. You'd say, I've heard people say both. I'd probably say touch wood. I don't do that, though.
Do the accents differ, like, in between those, like, just a couple hours for you, Bernice, or did you have to go way north? No, I know you do. I'm asking you, like, Bernice, if you have to go, like, I'm not talking about the people who live in Tanzania or whatever. I'm talking about, just a couple hours up and down.
No, they don't really for us. You've probably got your more ochre Aussie, maybe the more inland you go, the more country you go. But no, I think we're all just a bunch of Aussie bogans down here, aren't we? The way we talk.
Do you know Aussie Man? Do you know the man who does the amazing videos? Do you know Aussie Man? I think that's his name.
Aussie Man Reviews.
Yeah, Jason knows.
Oh, I think I have seen him on Instagram. Yeah. I'm going to have a look at if I know what you're talking about.
Well, I think we're probably good to wrap up. I was hoping we could maybe get one more special guest, but it looks like that's not going to happen. So I think we've talked quite a lot. Excuse me. When are you going to make official announcements?
For
BK.
You can call me BK. Hopefully before the end of the year, but otherwise it will be, early next year. But it's definitely happening. Sydney and Brisbane, 95% almost booked, and then hopefully Melbourne as well next year. Just trying to lock in those states and venues, but yeah, pretty excited.
And when will you launch the James Newbury episode?
We'll most likely launch that. Look, I'd love to get it out before the end of this week, to be honest, like hopefully Thursday, Friday.
This week? It's only Monday. Get on it. What do you mean?
It's Tuesday morning here.
Oh, it's Tuesday.
Oh, we're like a whole time zone ahead of you guys.
What's it like in the future? What's it like? Are there flying cars yet? What's it like? I'm excited.
Not yet. I'll let you know. But yeah, no, hopefully this week. Otherwise early next week. But yeah, no. We'll probably
Okay, quick question. Did you grow up a sports fan? And if so, who did you follow?
So Jim and I both followed. Have you heard of Aussie Rules football? It's actually what Jim's background is in.
Yes,
he was
Aussie Rules, yes.
Aussie Rules footballer. So our family was a big Brisbane Lions family, but I actually love my league. I love my rugby league. You guys don't have. No, you wouldn't have league over there. You have a few of our league players do go over to play at NFL. I know. So
maybe a kicker. I think you said the kicker already.
Yeah, possibly. So yeah, no, either the AFL. I mean, Brisbane Lions. They actually won the grand final this year. So that was 21 years in the making was their last premiership. Yeah, a long time.
What about the cricket?
What about the cricket? Oh, I don't know. I find cricket a little boring, I've got to say.
Even the fast one?
Oh, I don't mind the 2020 matches. I'll watch the highlights. Like I'll watch it when it's exciting, but my husband loves it. And I don't know, the thought of sitting there all day. That's what boys do here on Boxing Day. That they just sit here all day drinking beer and watching the Boxing Day test match. I just couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah, we don't have Boxing Day. It's just the day after Christmas, but I understand it's a massive holiday in the UK.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, you got it.
And what about the football? Do you follow do you care about any of the soccer, Bernice, or what they call football?
Yeah, I was going to say football or soccer. No, I have to say I don't. I probably only follow sports that Australia's good at, which means I've let go of rugby union the last decade, unfortunately. Yeah, I only really like to follow the sports that Australia's going to have a hand in. Yeah, we're okay at soccer, but we're not the best either.
I understand you're pretty fantastic at the breakdancing. Someone told me that. Is that the truth?
Well, I'm not going to have any comment on that.
Okay, folks, that wraps up the Hybrid Live Show. Check out more news from the Deadly Dozen over at Deadly Dozen Instagram. Check out Hybrid Sport Media, not to be confused with Hybrid Fitness Media.
Not at all. Yes.
They're the ones with the black and the circles, and we've got one circle.
Now, thanks for having us on. Good to chat.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thank you.